What is going on, guys? Andrew Hayes here, back with another review, and today I'm reviewing Halloween, which is directed by David Gordon Green and stars Jamie Lee Curtis returning in her role as Laurie Strode, and also stars Judy Greer and Andy Matichak as her daughter and her granddaughter, and is about 40 years after the events of the first one. Mike Myers escapes and is coming for Laurie and her family. Now, I was very excited for this movie. There was a lot of good buzz behind this movie coming out of TIFF, and I was just genuinely very excited for this movie because of the trailers. And just, disclosure, I have only seen the first one, the original, which is a masterpiece of a movie, in my opinion. Definitely one of the best horror movies ever made. But I have only seen the first. So, a lot of people are saying that this is the best Halloween sequel, and this is the Halloween sequel that we finally should have gotten so long ago. I can't say that because I've only seen the original. I haven't seen any of the others. But I will say that this is a servable Halloween sequel. Now, one of the things I absolutely loved about this movie, which is actually my favorite part about the movie, was Jamie Lee Curtis as Laurie Strode. I thought she was absolutely fantastic in the role. I mean, she was fantastic in the original, and I expected her to be really good in this one too, but she was really portrayed this character who has just been haunted by Mike Myers 40 years really well, and I really liked what they did with her character and really liked what Jamie Lee Curtis did with her performance. I also liked, the relationship that she has with her daughter and her granddaughter, how, the events of the first one kind of put a strain on her relationship with the daughter and her granddaughter, and how things weren't always good, and how Judy Greer's character grew up, and how the granddaughter has been kind of estranged from Jamie Lee Curtis because of what had happened in the first one. And I love how the first one has very big implications in this one. Another thing I really like, I loved the look of Mike Myers. I loved the look of the mask, how it was old and kind of rugged looking. I loved the look of the mask and just of Mike Myers in general, and the character of Mike Myers was great. Again, that is something I had expected for this movie. Like, the two things I really expected to be going into this movie, Jamie Lee Curtis to be really good and Mike Myers to be awesome, and those definitely delivered and then some. The score also for this movie is fantastic. John Carpenter, who knows this franchise better than anybody else, did a fantastic job with the score. I loved hearing it, and I loved what he did with it, and I really hope that the score gets nominated for an Oscar because it is that good. Also, the kills are really awesome, very creative, and I loved seeing the kills and glad that we got them. Also, the third act is awesome for this movie. I really loved the third act. Probably my favorite parts of the movie was in the third act, especially towards the end, and the ending I thought was really, really good. Now, as for my negatives, my biggest negative, and really my only negative, and it's a pretty big one, and I mean, it's a huge one, but is a lot of the characters weren't that interesting or good. There's a lot of characters in there that have no depth to them whatsoever, and I understand that they needed characters to die, but they, could have. I felt like they could have added depth to the characters and made us care more about the characters, because that way the deaths could have been more impactful. And, the deaths, while awesome, and, I loved the deaths in this movie, don't get me wrong, but, the people dying, and I just couldn't really, care for them dying. While, yes, it sucks, they died. I don't really want anybody to die, but just as characters, you're like, whatever, I didn't care about the characters dying, is what I'm trying to get at. and even still, like, there were characters that did have depth. Like, there are podcasters in the beginning, and I really liked what they were doing in the beginning, and I felt like after a certain point, like, they're like, all right, there's no need for these characters. I never saw those characters again. I'd be very happy for, what they did in the movie, and I thought that was it. But then they kind of continue with the characters, and they weren't really all that interesting, and I just felt like there was no need for that. And there's the guy who kind of replaces Dr. Loomis as well, and I did not like at all where they took him either. And I go, those are like three kind of big characters that did have depth, that they did try to make interesting, and they just weren't. And the direction of those characters weren't good. And still, there are a couple characters that like, I remember, like, one character in particular that just kind of shows up for the first time, and this is the first time you're seeing him, and then like 10 minutes later he dies, and I go, I can't care, because you don't know anything about this character. Yes, it sucks, he shouldn't be in the situation, but like, I just couldn't like care about the characters, and like, just the death wasn't that impactful because you met him really 10 minutes ago. And then there was this character that they who is pretty much the boyfriend of uh the granddaughter, and they really don't do anything with them. And I go, they could have taken him out of the movie, and nothing would have changed. And I felt that a lot of the characters just didn't need to be there, and the movie would have benefited with less characters, and characters that were just more interesting and had more depth to them, so you can care about them when they either survive or die. That's like my really big negative, and I do really enjoy this movie. I do give it a B plus. Again, a very, very good sequel to the original. I can't speak on whether it's the best sequel because it's the only sequel I've seen. But from what I hear, it is the best. But I can't personally say that. Other than that, thank you guys for watching. Please comment, like, subscribe, do all that kind of fun stuff. Until next time, guys, have a nice day.